Okay, everybody, welcome back. So good to see a fully packed room. If people are standing, there's a couple of seats at the front if you want to come up, and there's a couple of seats around here. So please do take a seat and welcome back. So the next session is all around elevating the Iconic's customer experience with Krista, the Director of Customer Engagement and Loyalty, and Paula, the Group Client Partner at the Lumery. So in terms of future inventions, Paula's invention is an app that allows her to park anywhere. So this could be outside of the White House, outside of the Taj Mahal. Pretty good invention there, I like that. And Krista's invention is self-watering plants. So she buys a lot of plants with the best intentions, as I'm sure many of us do, and then they often end up a little bit neglected until she overcompensates and waterlogs them. So please, whooping, cheering, stamping the feet, and a warm welcome for Krista and Paula.
Can you hear me? You can hear me.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
We have no guitar, okay? We're not singing. There's no Taylor Swift. There's no snippets of Magic Johnson or Jordan. So, I'm just letting you know.
But it's still going to be good.
But it's still going to be good. It's not going to be a surprise to anybody that we are a partnership, so we work together. And when we got asked to do this, we thought we have spent many an hour sitting on the sofa in the Kimpton talking about the industry, customer experience, and all the, I suppose, the challenges and successes that the Iconic, as I've got to say it, there's going to be the iconic pun because it is an iconic brand. So we thought 20 minutes, this is a cinch. So Matt apparently runs a very tight ship. We've been told that we must get off the stage in 20 minutes. So we're going to get into it. Krista, just for everybody, tell them a little bit about you, how you got here, and I suppose the role that you're doing at the Iconic.
Sure. Thanks, Paula. Thanks for having me. So I guess the first 15 years of my career was actually in the hotel industry. So I worked in roles across revenue strategy, marketing analytics, data, and marketing strategy and performance marketing. And then I joined the Iconic in 2020 in a commercial role supporting the CMO. And it quickly moved beyond commercials to much more of a holistic focus, looking at customers. And I was really fortunate to then be able to sort of help and shape our customer insights function over the next 2 years. So then I've now moved into my current role. I guess the areas that I oversee are customer strategy and insights and analytics, as well as CRM and personalization. And just for something fun, I'm also currently helping oversee creative marketing and e-com production through until the end of the year. And that's actually been really different and exciting, though, in terms of just seeing how a creative concept comes to life from the beginning all the way through to that on-site execution as well.
So I think for the marketeers in the room, that's a pretty hefty role that she's got at the moment. So let's get into it. What does a great customer experience look like for a brand like the Iconic?
Right. Well, I'm taking some words from our previous CEO, but as she always said, it's really our job to help customers find what they want when they know what they're looking for, but then inspire them if they don't know what they're looking for. And for us, we really think that can be best delivered through focusing on our app. So we spend a lot of time focusing on how we can personalise our app experience. We have on the app, the homepage is called The Daily, so there's a lot of personalised modules there. There's a lot of effort focused on how we encourage users to download our app, and a lot of work in the product team in terms of developing and optimising that experience as well. I think also the Iconic is probably best known for our fast delivery and free returns. I think that's core to our customer experience offering. And yeah, that's definitely something that our customers really value and tell us. I think also, I do just want to call out that we are still definitely on a journey, and that, I am really fortunate to be working with a team of passionate and smart people who are always focused on doing things better. So, yeah.
Thank you. I think that, again, the opening speaker talked about, and when he showed the video snippet, about passion and doing your best at your job. And it's not always about, having the panacea or being the panacea and having the silver bullet, but you are very well, let's say strong offer led. Again, talk a little bit about customer experience when you're in such a fast moving.
Yeah. So I think, I guess we want to think of our key destination pages on our website and our app really as our shop front. And we have over 160,000 items for sale on our site, and it's our job to think about how to surface the top products and categories in the most prominent positions. So there's a lot of focus on analysing this and understanding how customers discover products and find them in our big assortment as well. So I guess based on this analysis, we're definitely going to be running some more tests in terms of how we can think about what is the most appropriate window dressing for our site. That's really how we think of it, and encourage and inspire more users. So, often that is through promotions. It's reflective also of the current macro conditions and how customers are conditioned to shop. So I don't want to shy away from that. But certainly we are looking at how we can try some different approaches moving forward as well.
So how do you map your customer journey with those kind of critical touch points and still manage to, hello, can you still hear me? Manage to kind of surprise and delight?
So our customer journey is pretty complex. What we find is that most customers actually have more than one device in their purchase journey, whether that's, say, a desktop browsing, and then they might go home and purchase on the train and actually purchase. And the thing also is that it's not even a couple, but often many sessions that it takes for a user to go through on that path to purchase. I can tell you it is not simply people come in and transact on that first session at all. It's a very sort of it's definitely a journey, and yeah, there's a lot of complexity in terms of how we manage that. So I think if we were to simply focus on like analysing a single metric like conversion rate, it would be a little hollow in terms of the analysis and action that we would be able to take, because there's so many steps. Yeah. So really what we do when we think about customer journey is that we break it down into, I guess, micro moments. So we think about the different parts that are on that path to purchase and I guess exploring our site. So it might include things like how many products a user browses, so that depth of product discovery. It might also include how many products a user actually views, and then it might also be things like the add to bag option and sort of functionality there as well. So what we actually do is we set targets for each of those. And those targets are accompanied by actions for each of those steps. Now, those actions are often things that are like experiments that are planned or in flight, and there's no silver bullets in these types of situations. There's not any, very rarely any, major quick wins. Mm-hmm. But what we have done is we've started surfacing this, I guess, customer journey flow in our weekly executive trade meetings. And I think it's been really powerful to help key stakeholders across all functions of the business, I guess, understand what we're doing to improve customer experience. But also, I think more so beyond anything is just the complexity of it, and yeah, all of the work that's involved.
Awesome, and we will talk about it towards the end, but I know that obviously with your background, and there's a few people in here that have similar backgrounds from Sierra, we're really data-led. We can't be at a conference and not talk about examples, because everybody wants to know those nuggets. I call it the good, the bad and the ugly, because I don't actually think there's ever a failure. But can you touch a little bit on maybe one or two successes and maybe something that hasn't worked as well as you would like it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess probably a success, firstly, would be, I guess, some recent changes that we've made to our customer comm strategy to try and lead with more socially led content. The team have done a pretty excellent job. So really trying to quickly jump on the back of micro trends. So things like Barbie Core, things like the Tomato Girl. For those that don't know, that's basically kind of like the essence of all things Italian summer Aperol spritzers.
Love it.
All sounds amazing.
Love it.
So what the team actually did is super quickly, and I'm talking a couple of days, identify the trend, shot some content, put together some relevant product and SKU lists, built customer comms, built landing pages on site, and actually delivered that to our customers. And that's basically, well, first of all, it was done as a test, and we've done a few of these different iterations. And I guess beyond those trends, it can also be things like, you know, the printed sets sort of trend for summer, or linen vests, those types of, you know, fun things as well. And what we saw is that the engagement on these type of communications was up to 3 times higher than, I guess, a standard trade promotion or things like that. So clearly it works, and it's very logical, but it's just the fact that the team have really run with this and kind of built it into the workflow to be able to get this off the ground, I think is really great. So now it's working out how we sort of bring that to life on a more regular basis.
And the stat, right? 3 times higher. I don't think there's many people in the room that wouldn't like to see that. And I love that socially led content, because I think that's something that you guys can do that maybe other businesses that don't have because you don't have bricks and mortars that may have, so you're able to do, you know, a lot more in a shorter period of time. Just kind of off that then, can you talk a little bit about really your experience and how you would go about implementing customer experience and a couple of strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess probably the first one, you know, these are probably going to lend to my background really from a data and analytics perspective, but I do think that they're super relevant. And I guess the first thing for us was thinking about different cohorts of customers. What we did is we started by trying to look at different customers and de-average, I should say, all of our customer metrics. So rather than, I guess, looking at, say, average basket value of like the total business, we really looked at that from the lens of our high value customers, new customers, low value customers, maybe customers that just shop on app. And what I would recommend is sort of taking that approach and building it out to look at all of the key metrics for the business, and using that customer cohort lens to kind of sort of approach your analysis. And, you know, it can really be things like your transactional data, but also then not even financial metrics, also just other engagement metrics that are important as well. But I think, you know, it's really about working out in the desirable cohorts, the high value customers, what do they do differently to other cohorts that sets them apart, and kind of taking that approach through like working out some actions based on that as well. So to give a couple of examples in our business, firstly, I might give 3 examples for this. So the first one is just looking at new customers, for example, and we identified that a particular brand was driving a disproportionate amount of new customers. So what we did is we took that insight and we adjusted our acquisition campaigns across different campaigns, and changed the lead message to be away from our USPs, which historically and still do very well, but to really just lean into this brand as well, and the iconic together, and it performed really, really well. So that's just one. I think another one for us is about wish listing. Our highest value customers are really engaged with wish listing. In fact, a pretty cool stat is that 1 in 4 items that is sold on our site actually starts on a wish list. So what we did is we thought about how to build that into, I guess, how we surface that more. So an example, some of you might have seen a campaign that we ran recently called The Shop That Stops the Nation, and you'll see that wish listing was a really heavy component of that campaign, and it was also because that was a behaviour of our most loyal customers, and we really wanted to nurture that. So wish listing is also just super interesting as well, because it gives you insight into maybe trending products. We share this information with our commercial teams in terms of helping them make purchasing decisions as well. But it just gives a good gauge as well in terms of, you know, people are being a lot more considered in their purchasing, and wish listing is basically like our equivalent of window shopping, which is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, and we talked about this before. I use it. I know some of the other guys in the office use it as well. But I was still blown away by the stats. So
Yeah.
1 in 4 makes a huge difference, bottom line.
And I guess the third sort of example that round that out would just be when we were launching a new category, we used some location-based insights of our high-value customers to work out where to place some out-of-home ads to help grow that category as well. So I guess just rounding out that piece on customer cohorts, I'm really passionate about this, and I think it's just important to focus on creating cohorts that are actionable though. Everything in Insights has to be able to, we've got to be able to take action. So I saw some data about some really cool data that showed year of acquisition cohorts, which is a nice to know, but how do you then act on the fact that a customer was acquired in 2017 and actually do something with that? So my recommendation is just focusing on building cohorts that you can then take action on. I guess my second sort of tip moving forward, it's again, I don't think this is rocket science, but it's just leading with data and not opinions. I've seen examples of, and even in our business, teams spending a lot of time on a particular action that everyone thought was really driving was really critical to the customer experience and driving sales for a particular category. But only when we sort of dug deeper in that did we discover that it was a part of that journey, but there were actually far more other items or activities that could have been focused on to deliver that were more influential in that path to purchase. So data all the way. I'm a big advocate for this. And the third point is just really about a test and learn culture. And I think this is more just about a culture that is about continuous improvement. So for us, it's, we test a lot. We test placements of CTAs, we test the number of images that we use, we test the different models that we showcase our product on. There's a lot that we do. And I think, like I said before, very, very rarely do you find a silver bullet overnight of something that's going to make a big difference. But it's the teams kind of aligning around a culture of just trying to find small improvements that I think is really powerful to the culture and kind of is really important as well. So A/B testing is absolutely key for that.
Okay, there's a lot in that, but I think if you try and summarise that I suppose topical, social-led content, letting the data speak for itself, so making sure that you nurture that test and learn environment, and I love the shop window and that kind of have the evidence, so not the opinion, which leads us into the last question, which is, you are deep in this, and I hope that everybody's got some nuggets over the last 20 minutes, but look, at a time when, the share of wallet is difficult for everybody and customers' expectations are extremely high, where do you see CX, or how do you see CX evolving in kind of the next 3 to 5 years?
So I think customers will continue to have higher expectations of us all, to be honest. I think that a lot of customers provide a lot of data explicitly, but then also through behaviour. And I think more and more customers expect us to act upon their browsing behaviour and how they search as well in our sort of situation. And definitely I think that's going to be really important. I think loyalty is absolutely key, and I think it's a really important lever to drive engagement with customers. And I think key to that is, of course, making sure that that what we offer from a loyalty perspective is actually valuable to our customers. So certainly at The Iconic, we have, I guess, a toolkit of tactics that we are definitely looking to dial up in 2024 to I guess, continue to go on that journey and from a loyalty perspective. The third one, I think, is just about the kind of blurring of lines between product and marketing, and I guess the need for the two teams to work even more closely together. I think that, it's really the role of marketing to think about how we build powerful brands and create a connection to the customer, stimulate demand and bring those users to site. But then I guess when we get that user to site, in a way it gets handed over to the product team to really, I guess, own that on-site experience and work out how to improve the experience for customers. And I just think the two are so intrinsically linked. And I think there's going to be even more synergies and just those two teams working even more closely together. The last one for me is something I'm also just really passionate about in terms of people and growth. And I think the role for and demand for customer analytics, customer experience, and insights-driven analysts is only going to continue to grow. So I think that storytelling and having a hypothesis is important, but someone has to find the insight and be there to get into the data, and we need strong capability in that area. So continuing to nurture that skill set, particularly in, I guess, the younger generation coming through, I think is really, really important, and mining all of the data that we have as well. So yeah, I think that's really key.
I love that. And as somebody, hopeless plug for the Lumery, that is director of a business that is, facilitator, we facilitate all capability around technology and data and insights. I particularly love that. We did start this as a fireside chat without a fire. We have got 1 minute to spare. So Matt's going to be super, super happy with us. Look, thank you so much. I think it's great to hear insights, but also you don't have the panacea. As you said, there's not a silver bullet. You are on a journey, and it's beginning of that journey. And I think there's a lot of people in the room today that will benefit from hearing that somebody like The Iconic is still actually mining data, looking at what's happening, and have a test and learn culture. So on that note, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Paula.
37 seconds, Matt. Hey, come on. Round of applause.
Thanks.